Broadcasting live from the Albay PIO News Center, providing you the most exclusive news update from all over the province. This is News at 12. News at 12.
Especially learners with disabilities. Provincial Education Department Head Dr. Jeremy A. Cruz said education programs should not be handled by a single office and require collaboration across agencies and sectors. He said the department is working closely with the Provincial Disability Affairs Office to promote shared responsibility in advancing education programs in the province. The partnership aims to expand initiatives and activities for learners with disabilities as both offices prepare future programs and a formal agreement defining their roles. Officials said the effort supports broader inclusion goals and improved access to education for all students in Albay. In other story, the Albay Provincial Health Office warned the public about heat-related illnesses to boost awareness and prevention during a Life Capital program on April 14. Health officials said heat stroke is the most severe condition and can lead to organ failure or death when the body fails to regulate its temperature. They reported that heat exhaustion is the most common case, along with dehydration, heat cramps, and heat stroke, as heat index levels reach 42 to 51 degrees Celsius across the province. They said these conditions are caused by prolonged exposure to extreme heat and lack of proper hydration. The office advised the public to drink plenty of water, avoid outdoor activities from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and use protection such as light clothing, umbrellas, and shaded areas. They urge anyone experiencing dizziness, high fever, confusion, or loss of consciousness to seek immediate medical attention. In other news, the Albay Police Provincial Office will hold a 2-day firearms licensing and registration caravan in Ligao City on April 16 and 17. The activity will run from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Camp Captain Salvador Hausian del Rosario Sr. in Barangay Santa Cruz. The caravan will cater to both new and renewal applicants for licenses to own and possess firearms, including registration renewal and transfer services. Applicants are required to prepare documents such as clearances, valid identification, proof of income, and notarized forms. On-site services will include account creation, data correction, neuro and drug testing, national police clearance processing, gun safety seminars, and notary assistance. The office advised applicants to upload documentary requirements to their online accounts before undergoing neuro and drug testing. In the national scene, the transport group Manibela began a 3-day nationwide strike on Wednesday, with chairperson Mar Valbuena criticizing the government's response as insufficient. Valbuena said the group continues to demand lower fuel prices, removal of fuel taxes, and the repeal of the oil deregulation law. He explained that rising tensions in the Middle East since late February have caused diesel prices to surge by nearly 200%, leaving many drivers with little or no income at all. The government has offered fuel subsidies, cash aid, and service contracting programs, but Valbuena described these as temporary fixes that do not fully address the problem. He also criticized President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for suspending excise taxes on LPG and kerosene, but not on diesel, which is widely used by drivers. Valbuena said continued strikes aim to highlight the struggles of drivers and pressure the government to act more quickly on rising fuel costs. In other story, the impeachment hearing against Vice President Sara Duterte focused on testimony from witness Ramil Modriaga regarding alleged irregularities in the use of confidential funds. Complainant's lawyer, Amando Liguton, said Modriaga's sworn statements were considered significant, particularly his claim that he was involved in the disposal of around 125 million pesos in confidential funds within roughly 18 hours. The defense, represented by Paulo Panelo Jr., rejected Modriaga's credibility and described him as the weakest link, insisting his testimony should not be given weight in the proceedings. Vice President Sara Duterte herself later on in an official statement dismissed the allegations, saying Modriaga cannot even weave a believable lie. The National Bureau of Investigation is expected to attend the next hearing on April 22 to address a separate matter involving an alleged threat against the president and the First Family. In other news, the armed forces of the Philippines rejected China's claim that reports about cyanide use in Ayungin Shoal were made up, saying their findings are supported by scientific tests conducted over more than a year. AFP officials said laboratory results confirmed that bottles recovered from Chinese sampans near the BRP Sierra Madre contained cyanide, a toxic substance that can harm people and marine life. Military personnel described encounters at sea in which Chinese boats were cut off near the shore and said suspicious containers, fish, and clams were found, suggesting possible illegal fishing activities. The AFP also said it avoided arresting the fishermen due to operational limits, instead focusing on confiscating materials and keeping vessels away from the area, while stressing that restraint was used during the encounters. Officials added that continued illegal fishing and destructive methods have caused damage to coral reefs around Ayungin Shoal, and said the military will continue patrols to protect Philippine territory and the marine environment. And in the news outside the country, electric vehicle sales are rising sharply across Southeast Asia as surging fuel prices, driven by conflict in the Middle East, push more consumers to reconsider petrol-powered cars. Global oil prices have climbed by around 50% and recently moved above $100 per barrel, significantly increasing transport costs in an important dependent Asian economy. In Vietnam, domestic manufacturer Vinfast has benefited strongly from this shift, recording rapid sales growth as more buyers seek cheaper long-term alternatives to fuel-powered vehicles. At dealerships, many consumers said the decision to switch is mainly economic, with electric cars seen as a practical way to reduce monthly expenses and avoid rising petrol costs and fuel queues. Chinese electric vehicle makers, particularly BYD, are also expanding quickly across the region, reporting strong demand in Thailand and the Philippines, where buyers are increasingly sensitive to fuel price increases. Analysts said the surge reflects a broader structural shift toward electric mobility across Asia and beyond, supported by growing charging infrastructure and sustained global interest in cleaner and more cost-efficient transport. In other story, Pakistan is working to bring Iran and the United States back to the negotiating table for a second time round of talks while pushing to extend the current ceasefire to allow more time for diplomacy, a senior source said. The source, who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter, said Islamabad hopes to host the discussions again, although the final venue has yet to be confirmed. According to the source, preparations are underway and a meeting could take place soon, but officials have not set a specific date. Pakistan is also seeking to prolong the ceasefire beyond its current deadline to create a space for continued dialogue and reduce tensions between the two sides. And finally, in the news outside the country with reference to the Philippines, the Philippines is seeking approval from the United States to purchase more Russian crude oil as it grapples with a worsening fuel supply crisis linked to global geopolitical tensions. The shortages follow disruptions tied in ongoing conflicts involving Washington, Israel, and Iran, which has affected oil shipments and forced several cargo cancellations bound for Manila. Compounding the situation is the effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, a vital route for global crude trade through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. In response, Washington had temporarily relaxed sanctions related to Russia's war in Ukraine, allowing limited transactions to stabilize international energy markets. Philippine officials said they are pushing for an extension of this exemption while warning that the supply crunch may persist, reflecting broader vulnerabilities among import-dependent economies. If the request is not granted, Manila plans to diversify its energy sources by turning to alternative suppliers, including the United States, Canada, Cambodia, Brunei, and India to mitigate the impact of prolonged global disruptions. And there's a news at 12, April 16, 2026. We'll be back next week for more news updates. Thanks to all the news writers, Naomi Ruth Hernandez and Albay PIO. And on the technical side, Chad Bobis. Our Provincial Information Office OIC, Marty Gonzalez. And under the supervision of our Governor, Noel E. Rizal, I am Greg Hallare. Thank you for subscribing. Albay in my heart.